What's up, guys? Matt with BAAM Ranch. If y'all remember, about a year ago, I did a 3-year review on this Champion generator where I talked about how I really enjoyed it. Well, I left some bad gas in it. I don't know what happened, but after we moved, I noticed this summer it's not quite starting as easy as it used to, at least using the pull start. So we're going to go through that thing, clean out the carburetor today, and get it running back as good as new. Now, the HIPAstore did send me this toolkit intended strictly for cleaning and servicing carburetors on small engines. It's got a whole bunch of pieces in there. It's got stuff in there to clean out your jets and stuff. They didn't pay me for this review, but they did send this to me. And quick pause for capitalism, I'll have an Amazon link in the description below for this. Okay, so this is going to be a pretty straightforward repair. It's like anything small engines. You got to keep the carburetors clean. I'm not going to go through the whole process of demonstrating it, but you pull and pull and pull. Nothing happens until you either add a little bit of fuel to the air filter or start the fluid. So let's flip this thing around where we can actually see the carburetor. Okay, guys, a quick explanation on what's going on here. I have some really crude drawings of a carburetor. This right here, the brown is the engine, the green is the carburetor, and the red is the fuel supply. This right here is looking at it from the side view, which would be like this. This is looking at it from the front view, which is like this. And then over here is a bottom view, like this. So bad lighting, I realize that, but let's go ahead and show y'all what's going on with this. Fuel comes into the bowl, and some of these parts are missing, but you'll see that here in a minute. Fuel comes into the fuel bowl and is cut off by a float valve in here. When the engine turns, it creates a vacuum, so air flows through here. The carburetor mixes fuel with the air from the vacuum that comes from the engine, from the piston. It sucks a little bit of fuel up from here in the bowl to combine with the air that comes in, and that's what creates our combustible component to this. Inside the carburetor, this is the bottom view with this fuel bowl removed. There's a series of orifices, and these can get clogged with debris or many other things. They can get clogged with just gummed up fuel from running bad fuel. There's a bunch of them inside here, as well as from the front view. You can see a number of orifices in here. Whenever these orifices and jets get clogged up, you run into a no start or a hard start situation with your generator, or any small engine for that matter. And it doesn't matter if it's a four-wheeler, lawnmower, anything. You have a hard start, most likely the most common scenario is you need to go through, remove your carburetor, and give it a good cleaning. All right, I'm going to try to give you guys an angle on this thing, but back here's the carburetor. We're going to take this air box off, and I think this is like some kind of California evap canister, but we'll just buzz that off right quick with a 10mm. Pop these lines off. I just had hand surgery, and oddly enough, the last time I had hand surgery, I wound up doing quite a few small engine repairs then too. It's just kind of what you've got the time to do. I had some other projects I was wanting to get done today, but my hand's just not quite cooperating. Let me get these lines popped off, and I'll catch back up with you. Okay, that's out of the way. Pop this air cleaner assembly off. Probably would not be a bad idea to replace this air filter while we're in here, but I don't have one, so we'll take care of that on the next go round. This is one of the irritations about this particular generator, is that air cleaner box is a pain to get off of there. Just 4 of these little guys. They're not incredibly tight, so that's good. Doctor said I really needed to work my hand that I had surgery on as much as I can. And he said it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, and well, he was right. But that's okay. This is light duty work. I was going to move a metal storage building that I have to a better location today on the property, but my wife shut that down, so we won't be doing that today. Let's see, how does that come off? Yeah, that just pops off of there. And then we've got some 10mm bolts that hold that on. Move that vent hose out of there. Pull that guy out of the way. These little M12 impact drivers are worth their weight in gold just for speeding things up. The throttle is electronically controlled by this piece here. We have to access these screws right here to be able to get that loose, and we have to access them from the top. So I'm going to buzz this gas tank off right quick, just a 10mm. Just get it out of the way. Okay, so there were just 4 bolts that held the gas tank on. This hose right here went to the top, and this hose right here went to the gas station. Who am I talking to? This hose went to the gas tank. Now we can access these screws up here, and they're Phillips head screws. I don't think y'all necessarily need to see all of this, so I'll just pop them off right quick. This is a little bit more involved of a teardown, just due to the fact that we have a inverter that electronically controls the throttle on this. The screws are a little bit tighter than what I imagined they would be. So let's pop these out. Oh, not quite out yet. Okay. We're just going to rotate that, set it back there out of the way, and then that allows us to slide our carburetor off. So let's start taking this thing apart. We're going to start with removing this fuel line just to get it out of our way. It came off as part of the assembly. Sometimes these fuel lines get stuck. Actually, the majority of the time these fuel lines get stuck. Now be gentle with it. Just give them a slight twist till they break free, and then you can usually pull them right off. I'm going to do this with only one good hand here. Now just give them a little twist, and they'll work their way off. There may be fuel come out of this if you didn't drain it. I did drain this thing. This bolt right here is accessible. You just crack that loose and the fuel drains out of the carburetor for you. All right, so this is our mounting bolt for the fuel bowl. I'm going to pop that loose. Set it aside. Sometimes you have to tap on these gently and your fuel bowl will come loose. This is the float that I was talking about that cuts off the fuel supply. If this right here is malfunctioning, you'll have an issue where whenever it's not running, this will overfill with fuel and it'll start soaking your air filter. They're always held in with a pin. Can you see this pin? They're held in with a pin. Just take and pull that pin out. Flip it upside down. Lift this straight up. And as you can see, there's the needle valve, which seats inside of this hole. And that's the valve that controls whether or not the fuel overflows or not. It's the metering valve. Sometimes these come off real easy. This one's retained with a spring. There's a chance that I'm going to damage the spring by taking it off. It's not falling anywhere, so I'm going to leave it be. Okay, I know it's hard to see down in here, but down in this hole here is the main jet. It receives fuel through these tiny holes from inside the fuel bowl. These are almost always removable. Your normal flathead screwdriver won't really fit because the way they're forged, this right here flares out. So you really need a cabinet style screwdriver. See how that's parallel right there? And also these are often too thick, too wide in this dimension as well. So get a good cabinet screwdriver and that'll allow you to get in there and remove that jet. Sometimes these can be a booger and be tight. There we go, it just came loose, so let's just back that jet out. Little brass. You gotta be careful with these because they are brass and they will strip out faster than you can imagine. You can see it's loosened all the way up, but it's hanging up on the threads that are used to mount the fuel bowl. Sometimes you just kind of shake it a little bit, it'll come out. And there's a tiny hole in there that can get clogged, as well as several other holes in and out of this thing. I'm going to step off camera right quick and blow all of these orifices out with carburetor cleaner, and I'll come right back. Okay, so this is our little cleaner kit, orifice cleaner kit that came with the HIPA toolkit. So let's try to find the right size. I'm certain you can't see that hole in there, but it's a small one. So let's find the right size cleaner. And these just sort of work like a pipe cleaner. If you don't have one of these, I've used a bread tie with pretty good luck. Let's see. Does that fit through there? Yeah, it does. And these are a twisted wire. Pretty springy and pretty stiff. I like that one because it keeps from bending, and two, it kind of adds a little bit of a scrubbing surface on there. So let's clean that out really good. Set that aside. Clean out these other little holes. Oh, look there. The rest of that came out. So let's clean that out as well. I can see daylight through there. Tell me, if I rotate this, can you see daylight through it?
No, but we can see the holes.
You're just going to have to take my word for it that those did get cleaned with the carburetor cleaner and you can see daylight. Set that aside. Scrub that bore out really good. Can you see up there where that's coming through? Going all the way through. Scrub this one out. So this one really won't be that big of a deal because it's a larger orifice. And we know it wasn't clogged because it was allowing the fuel to come in. Okay, that one's clean. Let's find our small wire again and go ahead and clean out these others. Like I said, I'd always just used a bread tie for this stuff, and this is a whole lot better. That twisted wire seems to give a little bit more of a scrubbing motion. Okay, well, I think that has all of the orifices have been scrubbed, so we'll go back together with it. Okay, now that we've got that all scrubbed out, we'll go ahead and drop our pieces back in. Make sure you get them in the same way that they came out. If you put that in the wrong way, the worst case scenario is you put it back together and you take it apart and do it again. It's not really that big a deal, but do try to keep it together, you know, the same, put it together the same way it came out if you can. You need to be careful with this. These are threads into something aluminum, and this is brass, so it's easier than you think to damage this. Okay. Don't over tighten them, but tighten them enough that they're not going to fall out. And that's about as much as I want to do. See, like that? You take and kind of milk it with your fingertips, push with your fingertips. And that'll limit some of the torque that you'll get on there. Next, make sure all of this stuff is really clean. It's not a bad idea to drop this float into some water. Make sure it floats and doesn't have any holes in it. If it does, you'll need to replace it. Thing is, you can go and buy a rebuild kit for this carburetor and put it in and not fix anything. Slide your pin in. Easy money. Comes through both sides, and this pin is retained by the inner diameter of this. Check your O-ring. Make sure it's not damaged or cracked. This one's in good shape. There's no reason we can't reuse it. Once again, we're going to clock this properly. We know that this goes on to the generator in this direction, and we want to be able to access that drain bolt, so we're going to make sure that we put that in the right orientation. And if you get it wrong, no big deal. All you have to do is pull it off and redo it. Just rotate this around a little bit. As long as you're careful with your gasket surfaces. Both of these do have a sealing surface on it. You need to make sure those didn't get damaged. Don't over tighten this. I'm using my hand that I had surgery on, so chances of it being over tightened are pretty slim. And that's about as much torque as I want to put on that. Shake it. We can hear our float running back and forth. Wouldn't be a bad idea to put some really low pressure air here and see if your fuel is cut off. I'm just going to blow in it off camera. Yep. And then whenever I turn it up and let gravity do its thing, I can hear air coming through there. Let's see if you can hear that on the microphone. When it's upside down, nothing. When it's right side up, I don't know if you can hear that or not. Okay, let's throw it back on the generator. So for what it's worth, I think we just discovered a pretty good flaw in this generator. We do have it fixed, but let me show you something. Here's the carburetor. Here's the electronic choke, automatic choke, and back here is what controls the throttle. Turn it around. See this switch right here? This controls the auto choke. Now, the issue with that is we don't have any way to choke this thing unless it has a battery. Well, this thing is about 4 years old. The original battery is dead. It's one of the things we were going to do in this little project was go ahead and replace that battery. But let's try something. So I have the Milwaukee M12 tools. What if I just took and stuck that in there, and this one over here. Ah, look at there. See that light up? Now let's see if we can get it to start. So I don't know if you noticed just how fast this thing started without the choke. Well, with being able to do the auto choke. This thing was cranking and cranking and cranking even under electric start power. So that was started off of that tiny little Milwaukee battery. That's some good things to know. I'm gonna make a jumper cable harness to go on these whenever I replace the terminals on these. Hey, that's gonna be another fun future video for sure.